Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy right here. This is the TuyaKnife Bruiser. First off, though, I want to thank very much my buddy Connor for sending these guys along. He's a freaking joy. He's a patron as well as member of the patron Discord. Just beautiful thing. But anyways, he said, hey Nick, I got one of these guys. Want to check it out? I said, sure. Hey, why not? I'm always looking for more good stuff on the budget end, right? So there you go. Next thing, let's do a little bit of size comparison. This is actually a reasonably sized knife right here. Here it is against the Spyderco PM2. Here it is against the Ontario Rat number 2. And here it is against your Spyderco Delica. So we can see here that it's a little big, it's a little beefy. Not the end of any worlds, but it's definitely up there a little bit. I'll go ahead and I'll do a quick measurement on the blade right quick. I think we are coming in here around, we're just over 3.5 inches, depending on how you want to go, how you want to measure it. But it's not a small knife. So there you go. Next thing, this guy is a TuyaKnife right there. See, TuyaKnife. Tuya is a relatively new brand. It's a Chinese micro brand with with some American distributorship and whatnot. Interesting company, and they've actually been doing some really nice work, so there's that. And I think, actually, let's just go on ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, the ugly of your TuyaKnife Bruiser right here. So on the start, on the good side, that is, to start, there were actually some interesting little bits of jimping here. We've got some jimping here, we got some jimping here, and then we've got a little bit on the back spacer here as well. So we actually it feels like there is actually a fair amount of grip and purchase on this, alongside the natural not the natural, but the milled-in sort of finish on this micarta right here. And so it is actually pretty well textured, and it's very easy to keep staying in the hand, and so that's good. Also the jimping in the back here. Next thing, this guy has a nice recessed clip. What I mean by that is that they have milled the clip down into the scale itself, which is always a good thing to see. Next thing, this guy has some pretty solid ergonomics. It feels pretty good in the hand in this way, and it also gives you the opportunity to choke up a little bit as well. So you've got two really nice ergonomic options, which I appreciate very, very much. Next thing, the action on this guy is very good. Go ahead and I'll, no movement at all here. Yeah, absolutely fires out reliably. I have not been able to miss a flip with this guy, and that's a beautiful thing. It is smooth, and it's also very easy. It's got a very nice shutting action as well. It is a very, very excellent knife in terms of its action. This guy deploys reliably. It's a freaking joy. What we're getting these days for $50 is actually quite impressive. And actually, that brings me to my next point. Is this guy's coming in at $54 right now, and that's in the special, the micarta and whatnot. That's pretty impressive, I gotta say. $54 for this is... We are living in a heck of a time right now for the knife industry. So that is that is a joy, and that is the good here, is that this has a very solid price, a solid action, very nice ergos, and a recessed clip, and some nice jimping. To me, at least, what's great about this knife, though, although one could argue that the action should be the great, what I like most about this knife is the blade. Actually, I feel like this part of the knife is actually a lot more enthusiasm-giving, if you will, than this part of the knife is. If we look at the blade here, what we've got here is a very nice swedge. We've got ourselves a nice grind, and I gotta say, it comes down to a relatively thin edge there in the middle there. This is a D2 steel. It's a nice little design, and you get little nice touches, like these weird cutouts down here, etc. It's just, and as well as little bits of blackwash going on the outside here. I'm not a big fan of blackwash blades, but this contrasting finish, by the way, blackwashed on the top as well, it's just nice. This blade here is not only a good tool for cutting, but it's just a really attractive object. And so I really like the blade on this guy a lot, and I think it's actually very, very attractive. And so to me, that's what's great here is the blade. On the bad side, to start with, a couple little details. They could have taken the sharpening choil just a little tiny bit further out there, so that way there wouldn't have been this little smile at the bottom there. That's a very nitpick, but it's a thing. Next thing, they have a sunken clip, but they have raised screws. If done properly, this should have flat screws down there underneath. Not a big deal, but it's a deal. Next thing, this guy has a blade that is just a little bit close in the back here. I could just barely touch the tip of the blade here, or touch the blade in the back there, but it's a little creepy. I think that's something they could just back that down a little tiny bit. That would be a little better. Next thing, this guy has a blade spine that is relatively sharp. This little area right here, where they've ground the swedge, that's a very sharp little angle. Some would argue, oh, it's good for a fire steel or something like that. Are you really using this with a fire steel? I don't know. But either way, they could fix that. Next thing, the micarta on this guy. So this is a micarta edition. They also have these in a regular G10, but this one is done in a red sort of micarta. I'm going to be honest with you, though. I tend to like micarta. In fact, micarta is an absolutely beautiful material. Let me pull a couple of micartas for you real quick from my personal collection that you can take a look at here. Like, this is a nice natural micarta going on here. So you can see there's a lot of the clothy sort of feeling to it. If you look at it, even though this is oiled and is well used, this has a lot of texture to it naturally. Or even this is sort of a fancier micarta here. We've got ourselves a little bit of the grain, the bias cut micarta here. And again, you see a little bit of the cloth action in there. As opposed to, and this is, by the way, a Pena custom front flipper trapper, and these are custom scales for the Spyderco Shaman. But nevertheless, this really feels like it's mostly resin. Honestly, if it weren't for that little bit of patterning underneath there, as well as for some of the, what almost looks like voids in the micarta here, I wouldn't necessarily think this was micarta. I just think it was like G10 where the dye didn't penetrate quite so well. I have to say, I'm not super impressed by this, and part of that might actually be the milling on the front of it here, because that makes it feel a lot less natural. It gives you a lot less of that natural micarta beauty. Maybe if you sanded this guy down, it would start to feel a little bit more like micarta, but as it stands, it doesn't really feel that way. It's also got some issues around the drilling areas here. You can see here that the micarta is chipped up a little bit here, up here, up here. Overall, I don't know whether it's the material itself or the finishing or the handling of it, but I tend to be a person who really enjoys micarta as a handle material, but I can't say I enjoy it here. I think it's just not so well done. And then finally, I have to say, I like the blade of this guy a lot. The handle of it really strikes me as very vanilla. There's really not that much that's done here. I mean, it's fine in the hand, but I don't know why this void is here. I don't know why, like, the handle itself doesn't make all that much sense to me. At best, it's sort of boring, and at worst, it's sort of like, eh. So combined with the relatively vanilla design and this kind of so-so micarta, I can't say I'm a big fan of the handle. So to me, at least, that's what's bad here, is the handle's very vanilla. The micarta is sort of, I kind of prefer a G10 on this guy. It's got a sharp blade spine. The blade is a little bit close in the back here, and it's got a sunken clip but raised screws, and they do appear to have missed the sharpening choil. On the ugly front, there's nothing strictly speaking ugly. I really don't care for this particular micarta finish, but at the same time, that's very personal, and that's not what the ugly's about. So, to me at least, let's go to the final conclusion here. And that conclusion is that this is a really nice knife. Look, at some level, this has got good ergos, a good action, good price, and a really, really great blade. Sure, there were a couple of missed details. The blade spine's a bit sharp. The micarta's not amazing. And the handle is sort of a letdown with a blade that's this kind of cool and well-designed. But honestly, this is a really good knife. I mean, in fact, I think this knife makes me evaluate how far we've come in the modern knife market, right? 3 years ago, this knife would have blown my mind, would have blown anybody's mind, right? 3 years ago, to have a beautiful action like this guy, an unassisted flipper that just has this very, very nice action, that has micarta, that has D2. For $54, this would have been like, oh my God, amazing. But honestly, now it's sort of toward the middle of the pack. And, that doesn't make it a bad knife. It just reflects that right now it's super easy and cheap to get really amazing knives. You've got companies like Civivi. You've got companies like Ruwaiki, Rake over here. You got companies like CJRB, which is Artisan's budget line. You have so many really nice options for relatively inexpensive in the 35 to 40 or a 35 to 55 range. You've got so many good options right now that it compares well, but it ends up feeling like it's in the middle of the pack. It's super impressive, but it's almost lost among all that competition. So it's kind of a hard review to conclude, right? Because it's a really nice knife, and a few years ago, it probably would have ended up being a gem, even despite this. And frankly, had they done the micarta just a little bit better, that probably would have pushed me over the edge. But for now, given all of this competition, it's easy to say that it's a great choice, but it's among a lot of great choices. So at the end of the day, I mean, the conclusion ends up being personal, right? If you like the style, you like the blade, or you like any other element of it, I gotta say, the little bruiser here ain't gonna be so tough on the wallet, and I won't beat you up for finding it to be a very nice choice for you. So there you go. Hope this has been interesting to you, and have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Hope this has been interesting to you. There we go. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.